The Hebrews had been suffering for a long time. Every day felt the same: bricks, whips, and the sound of tired voices trying not to lose hope. Pharaoh treated them like they didn't matter, like they were invisible, like their pain was too small for anyone to notice. But God saw everything. He heard every cry, every whisper, every prayer spoken in the dark. And now, the time of waiting was over. God had chosen Moses. He had sent Aaron. He had spoken his promise. But Pharaoh refused to listen. So God was about to show Egypt and the whole world something no king could ignore. When God says,
"Let my people go,"
nothing in heaven or on earth can stop him. This is the story of how God himself stood up for his people and how Egypt began to shake. Moses and Aaron returned to Pharaoh's throne room. The guards didn't stop them. Pharaoh already expected them, and he wasn't happy. He glared down at the brothers.
"You still dare come before me?"
Pharaoh said, "Speak quickly." Aaron stepped forward. His voice did not shake. "God commands you again. Let his people go." Pharaoh smirked. "I will not. Your God has no authority here." Moses tightened his grip on the staff. Then God spoke to his heart. "Show him the sign." Moses nodded to Aaron. Aaron took the staff, lifted it, and threw it onto the ground. Instantly, it changed. The wooden staff twisted, curled, and became a living serpent. The court gasped. Some stepped back. Pharaoh's eyes widened, only for a moment. He snapped his fingers. His magicians stepped forward. They threw down their sticks, and their sticks also became serpents. Pharaoh crossed his arms. "See, your magic is nothing." But then something happened Pharaoh did not expect. Aaron's serpent moved, quick and strong, and swallowed the serpents of the magicians, every last one. Silence filled the hall. It was a small sign, but a clear message. God's power was greater. God was not afraid. God would not be stopped. But Pharaoh hardened his heart. "No," he said, "Israel will not go." And the signs grew stronger. God spoke to Moses again. "Pharaoh's heart is stubborn. Go to him in the morning. He will be by the Nile. Stand before him and deliver my message." So at sunrise, Moses and Aaron went to the river. The Nile was everything to Egypt. It watered their crops. It fed their animals. It kept the whole land alive. Pharaoh stood proudly by the riverbank, ready for another day of power. Moses and Aaron approached him.
"Pharaoh, you still refuse God's command. Because of this, the river you trust will become a sign against you."
Pharaoh didn't move. He didn't blink. He simply stared with cold eyes. Aaron lifted the staff high over the river. The water trembled. The surface darkened. Then the Nile turned red, deep red. Fish floated to the top. The river began to smell. People ran away in shock. The Nile, Egypt's greatest pride, had become a warning. Pharaoh's magicians tried to copy the sign and managed to do something similar. But they couldn't undo it. They couldn't change it back. They couldn't save their own river. Yet Pharaoh hardened his heart again. "No," he said, "your people stay." For 7 long days, Egypt lived with a dead river, and the next sign was already coming. The Nile stayed ruined for days. People dug holes near the riverbank just to find clean water. But Pharaoh refused to change, so God sent Moses and Aaron again. Moses spoke calmly.
"Pharaoh, let God's people go."
Pharaoh shook his head. The warning had been given. Now came the next sign. Aaron raised his staff over the waters again, and suddenly the riverbanks came alive. Thousands of frogs hopped out, then tens of thousands, then more. They leapt into the streets. into the ovens, onto beds, into bowls, into the palace. Everywhere Egypt turned, frogs. Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron immediately. "Enough," he shouted.
Tell your God to remove them, and I will let the people go.
Moses nodded.
Tomorrow, the frogs will be gone.
The next day, the frogs died out. The land stank, but they were gone. Pharaoh watched, waited, and once the pressure lifted, he changed his mind. No, they will stay slaves. So God sent the next sign. Aaron struck the dust with his staff. The dust rose, then scattered into tiny living things. Gnats, swarms of them, everywhere. They covered animals. They covered people. They filled the air and crawled over skin. The magicians tried to copy the sign, but failed. For the first time, the magicians bowed their heads and whispered, "This is the finger of God." But Pharaoh would not listen. His heart stayed cold, and the warnings grew stronger. God sent Moses to Pharaoh again, "Let my people go." Pharaoh refused again. So God sent swarms of flies, thick, loud, and everywhere. But something new happened this time. The land of Goshen, where the Hebrews lived, had no flies, not even one. For the first time, Egypt saw a clear line, protection for Israel. Pharaoh trembled. He called Moses and Aaron quickly. "Fine, go and worship your God. Just stay in the land of Egypt." Moses shook his head. "We must go into the wilderness, as God commanded." Pharaoh closed his eyes and groaned. "Then go. Just ask your God to remove these flies." Moses prayed, and the flies disappeared. But as soon as the air was clear, Pharaoh's heart hardened again. "No, they will not leave." Then God sent the next blow, a sickness on Egypt's animals. Cattle collapsed, horses weakened, donkeys, camels, sheep, gone. But none of Israel's animals were touched, not one. Pharaoh sent messengers to check, and they returned shocked. It's true, their animals are untouched. But even with proof right in front of him, Pharaoh refused again. Then came another sign. Fine dust rose into the air, and painful boils appeared on every Egyptian. Even the magicians suffered. They could not stand before Pharaoh anymore. But Pharaoh still would not listen. Egypt shook, but Pharaoh's heart stayed locked. Egypt's fields were already damaged, but Pharaoh still refused to listen. So God sent Moses to him again. "If you continue to harden your heart, the worst storm Egypt has ever seen will fall." Pharaoh didn't believe him. Moses lifted his staff toward the sky, and the air changed. Dark clouds began to gather, thick, heavy, clouds Egypt was not used to seeing. Then the sky split open. Hail crashed down, huge stones of ice hammering the ground. Trees snapped, animals ran for cover, houses shook under the impact. And then something even stranger happened. Fire flashed inside the hail, lightning and ice struck together. It was impossible, unnatural, terrifying. Egypt had never seen anything like it. But in Goshen, the land of the Hebrews, the sky was calm. No hail, no fire, no storm, only quiet. Pharaoh couldn't take it anymore. He sent for Moses and Aaron. "I have sinned," Pharaoh cried.
This time I was wrong! Ask your God to stop this storm!
Moses nodded. "If you truly let the people go, the storm will stop." Moses walked out of the palace, lifted his hands, and the storm ended at once. The clouds faded. The sky cleared. But when Pharaoh saw the calm skies, he hardened his heart again. No, they will stay. Egypt's land was broken. But Pharaoh's pride was unbroken. God told Moses, "Return to Pharaoh. He is still refusing, but this next sign will shake him." Moses and Aaron stood before Pharaoh again.
How long will you refuse God? If you do not let his people go, locusts will cover Egypt.
Pharaoh's officials stepped forward. For the first time, they spoke up. "Please, Pharaoh, let them go. Do you not see that Egypt is ruined?" Pharaoh hesitated. Then he said, "Only the men may go." Moses shook his head. God commands that everyone must go. Pharaoh grew angry again and shouted, "Leave me!" So Moses lifted his staff over Egypt. A wind began to blow, soft at first, then stronger, then roaring, and the locusts came. They covered the sky, they covered the ground, they filled the fields, they ate what little had survived the storm. Egypt had no food left. Pharaoh panicked. He called Moses again. "I have sinned, forgive me. Ask your God to remove the locusts." Moses prayed, and the wind changed direction, carrying the locusts into the sea. But once again, Pharaoh hardened his heart. Then came the next sign, a sign that shook even the bravest people. Moses stretched his hand toward the sky, and darkness fell. Not night, not shade. A thick, heavy darkness, so dark that lamps barely worked. People stayed in their homes. No one moved. Fear filled the land. But once again, in Goshen, there was light. Pharaoh's voice trembled as he sent for Moses. "Fine, take your people, take them and go. Only leave your animals." Moses spoke clearly. "We will take everything, as God commands." Pharaoh exploded with rage. "Get out of my sight. If I see you again, you will die." Moses bowed his head. "As you say, we will not appear before you again." But even then, Pharaoh had no idea how close he was to the final and greatest sign. A sign that would change Egypt forever. Egypt was silent. The darkness had lifted, but fear still clung to the air. People whispered in the streets. Animals were weak. Fields were ruined. Food was scarce. And still, Pharaoh refused to listen. Then God spoke to Moses once more. "There will be one last sign. After this, Pharaoh himself will send you away." Moses listened closely. This final sign would not be like the others. It would touch every home, every family, every heart. God told Moses to speak to the Hebrew people. Each family must take a lamb, a perfect lamb. You will prepare a meal, and with its blood you will mark your doorposts. Moses felt the weight of the instructions. God continued. When the final sign moves through Egypt, every home marked with the blood will be protected. But Egypt will feel the cost of its cruelty. The Hebrews gathered together and obeyed exactly as God commanded. No shortcuts, no hesitations, every detail mattered. Inside their homes, families waited. They held their children close. They whispered prayers. They trusted God. Midnight came. And then, a cry rose across Egypt, a cry of shock, grief, and fear. The final sign had come. But every Hebrew home, every house marked with the lamb's blood, stood safe. Pharaoh stood in the middle of his palace, trembling with anger and sorrow. The warning he had ignored was now reality. He called for Moses and Aaron at once. When they entered, Pharaoh's voice cracked. "Go," he whispered. "Take your people. Leave Egypt immediately. Take your flocks, your herds, everything. Just go, and ask your God to bless me also." Moses didn't answer right away. The moment felt heavy. After years of slavery, years of cries, years of cruelty, Egypt had finally let them go. The Hebrews moved quickly. Families gathered their belongings. Mothers held their children. Fathers collected their animals. Neighbors made sure no one was left behind. The marks of the lamb's blood still shone on their doorposts, a quiet reminder of God's protection. And before sunrise, Israel stepped out of Egypt as free people. They crossed the gates. They walked past the fields, out into the open land. For the first time in generations, no one shouted at them. No one ordered them. No one chased them with whips. Their steps were light. Their hearts were full. Freedom had finally begun. The Hebrews walked into the night with hope glowing like a small flame. The air felt different, gentle, calm, filled with a peace they had never known. Some cried softly, some laughed. Some held on to one another, hardly believing this was real. Moses paused and looked up at the sky, wide, quiet, sprinkled with stars. He held his staff a little tighter. He didn't know what challenges waited in the days ahead. He didn't know how long the journey would be, but he knew one thing for certain. If God had brought them out of Egypt with his mighty hand, then he would lead them through whatever came next. The night was still. The path ahead was open, and the God who rescued them was walking with them.